Somebody's happy. Somebody's happy, right? We are, look at, isn't that gorgeous? Another Starry vlog. Hi. Gorgeous. Cool today. It's probably only 28 degrees. The fickle weather of the Panhandle. But I tell you what, when the sun comes out, how gorgeous is that? So I'm exploring today. I'm looking for a good hiking stick. Actually, this one don't. Oh, actually, this one looks pretty darn good. This one looks good. I think I can climb that up there. All right, so hi friends, and Starry vlog. And actually I'm out about adventuring with my compadre, Marito. He's having fun today. But just wanted to bring you gals and guys along. I know you like, the feedback I get is you like coming out with me. So you're coming out with me on a little exploration. Look at this. Somebody must have been shooting, because that's a target. Look at that. Huh. Looks like they missed. That's a good one. They coming out here and hiking and enjoying God's great creation. You know, I think one of the best benefits of living off the grid, at least for myself, is where we chose to live and going right outside our back door and exploring. I mean, I'm an explorer. When I was a little girl, oh my ma, she couldn't drag me in. I'd go out there and I'd pretend, swimming, building sand castles. I remember in our backyard we had a sand pit, and me and my sister, we had a little, remember Hot Wheels, and then we had Tonka trucks. Oh yeah, we built like a little city, little roads in the sand, and we drive our Tonka trucks and our Hot Wheels. And then we had dolls. Oh man, we have the dolls. We had beanbag dolls, all shapes and sizes, and some other types of dolls. I was a doll chick. I really liked my dolls, and I would create. I mean, every doll we had a name: Billie Jean, Bobby, Tiffany, Pork and Beans, Navy Beans. I can visualize them all. And Sally was married to Billy, and Pork and Beans. Imagination. And I think the majority of kids are really losing out. I think the majority of kids right now, it's about the cell phones and the computers. And I don't care what anybody says. Yeah, I know kids are smart. They're technologically savvy. That's all great that they know how to do computers, but they're losing touch with all of this. They're losing touch with their creativity. They're losing touch with their childhood. It's a whole different world that we live in, and I think the kids are really suffering because of it. And and the other glaring fact too is how many kids know Christ. You're never too young to know Christ. And I'm not talking about the Catholic baptism at birth, and I'm talking about really knowing Christ and being raised with the knowledge of Jesus Christ. So important. I think parents, and I get it, we live in a competitive world. They want their kids to be ready for the world. So it's all about sports and education. And there's such pressure. Oh my gosh, there's such pressure for those kids to excel. But the focus is their academics, is their sports. But you gotta have a balance. These kids, I haven't gone to any games, but I hear people who have kids and how they talk about, their whole life revolves around their kids' games and their extracurricular activities, and the parents are like obsessed. They're like obsessed, and I don't know. I'm just like thinking, how many of those kids know Jesus and are saved? Because wouldn't as a priority for your kids be the salvation of your child before anything? You know, your child's 12, 13 years old, and it's all about volleyball, or it's all about football, or whatever it is, academics. And if that child would be hit by a car, you know, God is a loving God. God is gracious, but the only way through our Father is through Jesus Christ. Our kids need to be saved too. And how awful, you know, 16 and 17-year-olds. Look at when they start having sex. I was exposed to a stark reality when I started working at the hospital, because a lot of the people have kids. And they would tell me stories about, oh, you know, Starry, kids are having sex at the age of 11. Some of them at the age of 10. I'm like, do they even know what sex is? Do they even understand? How can they understand? They're not even, they're infants themselves. And they're like, this is the world that we're living in. You know, they're putting their 12-year-olds on birth control because they're like, well, what are we supposed to do? Well, I will refrain from that. I mean, you know, they're like, well, they're going to do it anyway, but I don't know. That's tough, because if your child is 12 or 13 years old, 14 years old, 15 years old, and 16, any of those, and having sex, and you're a believer, something wrong with this picture. Who are losing control, and you know, and I'm not trying to generalize everybody, but I think some of it has to do with parents. Some parents aren't parenting. They are, and I know it costs money to have kids. I get all that. I know, you know, I may get a lot of criticism from what I'm talking about right now, but because I don't have kids. Yeah, I know. I may not have kids, but you know what? I've got eyes. I got ears. I hear and see what's going on. So it's not like I'm masked for this. I get that it does cost money. I get all of that. I get that, yeah, kids can be unruly, but you know what? All my dad had to do was look at me a certain way, and I knew. You know, my mom, I respected my mom. I may have pushed the line sometimes, but you know what? I knew that they were the final say. They were the disciplinaries. And I also knew God. I knew God as a little child. The first thing my mom did was she brought us to church, and I was raised as a Catholic. We were loosely Catholic, but she made sure I went to catechism. Yeah, I got the fear of God put in me. Woo! Those 10 Commandments scared me. The nuns scared me. And you know, it's unfortunate. And yes, that's unfortunate. I mean, we don't want to raise our children in fear. That's not what Jesus is about. But I will tell you that just that little seed being planted kept me on the straight and narrow for a long, long time. And I think a lot of it also has to do with the society that we're living in and where we've come with our kids, the lack of respect. It's just, it's so overwhelming right now. There's no respect for the teachers. And you know, before teachers, we were kind of scared of some teachers. We were respectful of the teachers. You didn't want to go to the principal office. Nowadays, the kids like beat up on the teachers. What? You know, they beat up on the teachers. Doesn't make any sense. You know, my husband was telling me the one story where the one teacher grabbed the kid by the neck, pushed him up against the, you know, that's what he did. Says enough is enough. You do that nowadays, you're going to get sued and you're going to lose your job. You know, I'm not saying what was right back then, you know, pushing a kid up against the wall, but the kid never back-talked again, never got out of control again. And obviously there's always exceptions to the rules, but so we have just, we're living in a time when our children are victims, they're unruly, they're at the mercy of the world, they're at the mercy of Satan. And if we're not providing good parenting and a solid foundation for them, well, you see what we've got. It's a whole can of worms. Whole can of worms. So how did I even get on this subject? I don't know. You wanted to go for a walk with me, this is what you're getting. Yeah, Yeah, I don't have any kids. You know, I've got nieces and nephews, and that's enough to make my soul cry. It really does make my soul cry with my nieces and nephew, because, you know, they're not all saved, and the ones that are supposed to be saved, they're lost. They're just lost. And I have no influence in their lives, unfortunately. It's just the way it is because of our family dynamics, and it breaks my heart, breaks my soul. It really does. So I get it, you know, just because I don't have kids, I feel the pain. I feel the pain of what parents go through, because I love my nieces and nephews. I love them. I love children. I don't know what the answer is. But, well, no, I do know what the answer is. The answer is Jesus. The answer is Jesus. The answer is parenting with Jesus as the head. Just like a marriage needs to submit under God in order to be fruitful, we got to do it with our kids. There you go. That's the answer right there. See, look at that. I got to the top and I figured it out. And does it sound that simple? It does sound that simple. But you know what? Jesus didn't make it complicated. We make it complicated, don't we? We make things so complicated. I am learning, even with my walk, ways to glorify God, ways to be obedient. And you know what? It takes discipline. It takes work. We're in it for the long haul. And I think we just, I don't know, I think maybe some people think just because you believe in the Lord, you got it made. You don't gotta do nothing. You don't have to do nothing. I'm saved. I'm good. No. It's like showing up to a job. You got the job, right? And then you don't do anything. You don't work. You got a job, right? You got hired. You got saved. You got to work now. You got to work, and that includes your marriage, and that includes your kids. And I'm not saying work like in terms of what some religions preach. I'm saying just work to be obedient and to, you know, glorify God. This is really pretty, isn't it? Look at the tracks up here. This is a nice game trail. All right. Am I talking too much? I don't know. Is this gonna be a Starry sermon or just a Starry vlog? Never know. You never know when I'm gonna whip the camera out and what's gonna come out of my mouth, my friends. Kind of exciting, isn't it? All right.